Good afternoon, Houston CyberCon, and as good Aggies like to say, howdy. It is certainly my distinct honor to be here this afternoon with you guys, and I would just have to say, after a couple of years of isolation, you might say, with this pandemic, so fantastic to see your smiling faces out here in the audience. My name is Laura Tibodeau. As she just mentioned, I am the Digital Innovation and Transformation Officer leader for Ascend Performance Materials, located here in Houston, Texas. Many of you, however, know me through the different things that I've been active in our Houston community. The Evanta CISO Forum, InfraGard, as perhaps an executive advisor with Darktrace and Verizon, or maybe even on a human level for junior achievement. So it's just wonderful to see so many friendly faces out in the audience today. Today's sessions, all day long, are really about you. It's about helping you find new ways to protect the assets that you've been entrusted with and safeguarding those functions for your enterprise against both foreign cyber operatives and just good old cybercrime units. So I really want to kind of challenge you to take full advantage of the great opportunities that today's conference provides you. You've got a wealth of information at your fingertips, both with the colleagues in this room, your professional colleagues that can share best practice stories, as well as the suppliers that are here showcasing kind of latest and greatest technologies. This is a treasure trove of opportunity, and I really encourage you to take full advantage of it. Get out of your comfort zone to really take advantage. And it's my most sincere hope that you come out of this, inspired by new ideas and ready to make some positive change in your environments. Okay, so I believe it was last summer that Kim came to me, and that seems like an eternity ago, I just have to say, summer of a year ago. And she said, you are so proud of the cyber portfolio, the staff, the operation that you put together. And it would be wonderful if you would showcase that in front of your peers. How did you do it? What worked well? What didn't do it? What didn't work well? And so, we kind of talked a little bit about it, and she said, how did you go about it? How did you manage the portfolio? And then, this pandemic ever on our minds. And we said, the whats are important, but we really want to take a moment and talk about the hows, which is with great people. So those will be the three kind of facets of today's discussion about building a high-performance organization. So just a little bit of we got to go back to the past and talk about what was kind of going on. Now, many of you may remember 2010, and we heard about Stuxnet, and we heard about the Iranian enrichment situation. And maybe it did not really make a difference in your world. I can say that in many corporate teams, executive teams, they thought, well, that's on a different shore, that's kind of a nation state kind of deals, and that's not something that we're really worried about. And then you might remember between that period of 2010 and 2015, and there was all sorts of exciting activity in the cyberspace. Bank of America, JP Morgan, Anthem, Home Depot, Target, just to kind of name a few. And even still, many executive teams said, that sounds like a consumer kind of deal. And maybe that's not really applicable to our operation. And then 2015 came. And you might remember 2015. 2015 is when there was that German steel mill incident. The German steel mill incident. The first time that a company's IoT systems, control systems, were penetrated. They said it was a spear phishing attack by a nation state. There was some sort of squabble over this, that, or the other. That's not the important point. The important point is that this was industrial manufacturing. This was not a government-to-government kind of situation. And the control systems were breached such that the furnaces were put into a rapid shutdown. This caused amazing amount of devastation. And I think following that event, boards of directors around the country said, you know, this cyber seems like it is now applicable to industrial manufacturing. We're probably going to have to jump on the bandwagon now and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. So that indeed was the catalyst, the spark, that for the team that I was on allowed us to bring in an external assessment firm, and we actually used Red Tiger Security to do a third-party IT/OT cyber assessment. We asked that they do that per the NIST standard framework. That's one of the choices that you have to make. We just felt like that made all the sense in the world. And I guess you shouldn't be surprised if you're largely running firewalls and antivirus and simple identity management, that there was plenty of opportunity identified by that IT/OT assessment. And I would tell you that a third party or an external set of eyes, a neutral party, is an amazing catalyst to help your leadership team understand the art of what's possible and the art of what's necessary. That is what propelled us into our forming our cyber team charter, our 3- and 5-year plan, and gave us the funding for an immediate stand-up of a new cybersecurity organization. Needless to say, we also had to go out and recruit staff, which wasn't easy in 2015, 2016, and still not easy to locate. It also started us on a, I would say, full-up immersion program, learning program on all things cyber. Now, here we were trying to learn from our peers and starting to kind of foray into events very much like this one. And I happened to meet a gentleman named Alex. Maybe you know. Maybe you noticed I did a little bit of embellishment on this picture to put NOV on his squash belt there. But Alex was the then CISO at NOV. And you know, when we were talking about that string of companies that had some issues, NOV might have been on that list. And Alex, you know, you could just tell when you talked to this guy, he was smart as a tack, but he was humble. And he had real cyber, hard-earned experience, you might say, which comes from being on one of those lists. And he was willing to share. And this is why I kind of started my discussion this morning, encouraging you guys to intermingle and really learn about the stories that each of you has been through. And so it was on that day that Alex said, well, what are you here for? What are you really thinking? What are your goals? Mind you, this wasn't a supplier in the room trying to sell me something. This was a peer that just really wanted to help me be my best self. And I said, you know, we have a certain limited funding stream for this cyber, and we've got to step up over a certain number of years. And it's like the Price is Right. I just want to do the right thing. I want to put the first and right thing in the shopping cart and add one more and add one more. And I'm really trying to think, what are those things and in what order should they be really gone after? And Alex, you know, just said to me, Well, talk me through what you're thinking. And let's formalize this plan. And I didn't know Alex before a kind of event like this. That's what such a nice guy he is and was. And he really took me on as a mentee, and I took him on as a mentor. And I just remember sitting at one of these tables just like you're at and scribbling my little diagram of this is what I envisioned, and I was so excited. And he said, yeah, I agree, but no, I don't agree. And so this is why. And he explained to me, this is why. And again, leveraging back to those cyber lessons learned. Alex certainly became a superhero and one of many that I would say stepped on the field for us over the years. So this is kind of the result of that strategy, and the discussion therein. And we discussed that 90% of the cyber incidents really resulted from phishing attacks. And understanding that. And of course, I was all excited about all the shiny objects out there, just like it's showing in this room. And Alex said, the shiny objects are wonderful, but you've got to start with people. You've got to start with an educational awareness program, because these are your ambassadors. And these are the people that you need to become your emissaries and really promote and think about cyber and everything that they do. And we talked about even programs that we needed to institute to really make this real. In fact, we have a carrot and stick program, or had a carrot and stick program, the notion of reward on the positive side and disreward on the negative side, to really make this thing real. So we talked about the employees and the awareness program had to be first. We talked about the heart of the operation. EDR and NDR were the terms that we used back in the 2015 day. We talked about graduating and trying to bring all of our information in to a central repository and running alerts off of that, a VSIM. He basically said, you're not developed enough to be able to run a SIM on your own at this point in time. So you definitely need, the best and brightest to help you on that. Have a VSIM, have a VSOC. And we talked about automation tools because we wanted to scale the power of a small team. We talked about that you have to measure what you hope to achieve, and so KPIs are really important. We talked about a risk register. Oh, by the way, the good friends at KPMG, who were our internal audit, reinforced that risk register. Make sure that you have a very strong risk register. We talked about AI automation, and that AI automation, in 2015, it was kind of a glimmer in the eye, but as the years have gone by, and I'm, kind of one of the biggest on this path of the power of AI automation as a force multiplier. It makes a huge difference for a small team. And again, a lesson from the good friends at KPMG about the cybersecurity playbooks and continuity plans. So, with that kind of storyboard, of the genesis, I wanted to take a quick second to talk about, the Plan, Do, Check, Act, the process by which we enriched our portfolio year after year. Because it's one thing to create a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan, which candidly is about wrong just as soon as you've published it. I mean, the industry is moving that quickly, and there's so many new threats that it's good, and you have to have something to guide your way, but you want to stay relevant. And so, just as a reminder, and I just thought this was kind of a fun slide, compliments of our dear friends at CISA, which is this digital footprint is growing exponentially. These are the 2022 statistics. Can you imagine 20 million people access the internet every day, 5.7 million Google searches? I'm surprised I haven't yet seen Google in the room. But, the digital footprint is not only wide and deep, but getting larger. And as this digital innovation, continues to propel forward, the job that each of us has in this room is that much more important. So So once we had laid down that original cyber portfolio, what did we do and how did we keep it evergreen? And the process that we said, and we said right up front that we really believed in the NIST framework. I still firmly believe in the use of that NIST framework. It's just a wonderful way to package and keep yourself organized about what your strengths are in those different phases of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And so what we would do is, it was kind of this plan, do, check, act. I don't know if many of you work in the oil and gas upstream, downstream, but this continuous improvement is so important in a manufacturing type setting. And so what we did is we laid out that initial portfolio and we started that acquisition strategy and that implementation strategy. And then we would have a third party come in and do a pen test, do a red team test with us, and understand where our defenses actually held and where they were weak. And we were the first people to tell those guys, you know, this is what we're really worried about. Go hard in these areas because this is what our concern is. We wanted them to make us our best self. We wanted them to help us be our best self. And so we would run those tests to see if the tools that we had put into place were actually, what was the efficacy of those tools? Were they doing what we needed them to do? And was there an issue on our side, or was it the tool wasn't wide or broad enough to cover whatever the use cases were? And where is the next tool that we need to take on? And so we did this kind of plan, do, check, act, and we prioritized each incremental investment based on the severity of the issues that we were seeing through these various tests. So we had a certain idea of what that 3 and 5 year plan was. But the good news is that our board was flexible enough that they allowed us to adapt and just really try to do the right thing. And we shared all of these results with our board. They were very, very interested. In fact, like I said, that was really kind of the catalyst. Another point is that the cyber threats, the threat vectors were constantly changing. And so even if the tools that you had put in place were good for an appropriate for a certain point in time, the fact of the matter is that this is such a dynamically changing landscape that you have to, again, just kind of keep on this continuous improvement path. But again, that's the what, and I promised I would talk about the what, just to kind of showcase, you know, where we've been. But what we really wanted to talk about, and I'm supposed to be kind of your inspiration, your catalyst to get, you know, for the afternoon. I really want to talk about, and before we leave out, the people and the how. And the people are your greatest force multiplier. You know, people was everything, especially for a small shop. We didn't have, you know, numbers to safeguard us. It was really about named persons with strong accountability. And so, you know, these are kind of the tenets of what we set off to do, is to, you know, hire great people. And we'll talk to you about the skills of what we were looking for as great people. But hire great people, create a fun, energized work environment, build strong relationships, both within the team and external to the team, become trusted risk advisors within the company, and just leverage technology where we could. We recognized that our company had a premise that they were very concerned about growing the FTEs. That, you know, that was a concern, and especially in a cyclical kind of financial environment. And so they really encouraged us, and that was great by us, to leverage technology to the max to be able to bring meaningful insights. Now, we talked about what are those people that we were looking at. And you know, it really wasn't about a specific type of degree, or even as much as I might have wanted a certain university or institution. What we were really talking about is people that enjoyed and were effective at problem solving, people that were good at innovation, people that were inspired for greatness, people that were motivated and hard-charging, people that were collaborative, adaptable, resilient, and enjoyed learning. Our interviews were typically a team interview. Over the pandemic, it was a virtual team interview where our entire team would be on the call, and we would just virtually give the microphone to each person around the table to ask questions. And then the rest of us were listening during those interviews. And what we were really trying to understand is to what degree, how could that person really think out the answers? Some of them were difficult questions that even we would have had, a problem with. And it didn't really depend on the answer. It depended about the thought process that the person used to try to get there. And some of the candidates that we had would even come back and ask a clarifying question or some sort of, could I assume this or could I assume that? And we thought, well, that's great, because we like this collaboration style. And so, that was the profile of the folks that we were looking for. And from a team standpoint, we really wanted somebody who would feel comfortable to collaborate freely. They had to be confident enough in their ability that they were willing to share. The people that are not confident in their ability want to hide behind their title or whatever it is, and certainly kind of offer this island of exclusivity. And that's the opposite of what we wanted in our small high-performance team. They needed to be able to appreciate others, share credit, empowered to try new things, and learn from their mistakes and move on. They say, fast failure and move on. There was no penalty. Now, another important part of being a small shop is a better together philosophy. We talked about superhero friends, and I embarrassed Alex just a little bit ago. Alex is now in a senior executive role at NOV, so I don't think he's here. But Jonathan Pollitt, Brad Marino, John Carlin, Bill Airy, Marvin Goins, Anthony Mitchell, Mohit Chanana, Jason Howard Grow, Mark Crunchington, Shane Brennan, David Mata, Nicole Egan, Rick Melendick, and Dee Dee Budhardo. These people, each from 2015 forward, and I just thought about all the wonderful people. This is what a pandemic does. It makes you a little bit, sappy. But, you think about, oh my gosh, these very kind-hearted people each stepped up when we had some question in our mind. We were at some fork in the road and we didn't know which way to turn, and they offered an opinion. And they offered a suggestion, and they were there. And those superhero friends, are people that I will go to the mat for, forever, because I'm just so appreciative. But beyond the superhero friends, I think there's something also to be said about enduring business partnerships. You can have a conflicted vendor relationship and see how far that gets you. Or you can say, let's pull up our sleeves. You may not be perfect, we're not perfect, but let's make a go of this and make it better. And that's the spirit that we took with each relationship that we took on. Better together, and let's create an enduring business relationship. We also believed that we needed a relationship with our government agencies, whether it was DHS or FBI, especially when you're in certain industry sectors. It is expected that you pull those people in should you have an issue. In fact, they will pull themselves in if you have an issue. Just another learning from one of my friends. Luckily, they have not descended on my place of business at this point. And then the last thing is professional industry associations. And we talked about at the start of the program that many of you are involved in different things, InfraGards and many others. And that's just critical. This ability to share information in a non-threatening environment, priceless. So about that team culture, people matter. We wanted to be better every day. People make mistakes. We all know that we're on a journey, but as long as we're better tomorrow than we were today, better next month than we were last month, all good. As long as we act as one team, all good. Sometimes we talk about, this is for the family and outside the family, but teamwork, collaboration, inclusion, think outside the box, find creative solutions, transparent communications. Now, as we kind of wrap this thing up, put a point on it, I wanted to bring you back to the movie Avengers Endgame. Hopefully you had a chance during the pandemic to see a few movies. Probably did a lot of serial watching. I think I've never watched more in my life. But anyway, do you remember that final scene? The scene where Captain America was there and his shields were a bit on the broken side, and there he was facing off against Thanos and the legions. Do you remember that? It's right there. And it was certainly a test of his resolve, of how that was going to play out. And as I was thinking about that moment, and I was thinking about my final call to action for you today, I think that each one of you is Captain America, Captain America. You are faced with so many challenges on a daily basis. I mean, who could have imagined WannaCry, PetJet, solar winds? I mean, all the crazy things that until you go through it, you could never imagine. And you're staring in your eye, and pipelines are going down, and beef sales and pork are impacted, and everything else. And you really are Captain America's. And that's what I wanted to kind of mention, was because as you remember in that final scene, there the going was getting tough. And that's when the tough get going, because that's when the superheroes all descended in to help Captain America. And that's when he issued those famous words, "Avengers assembled," and he staged that final comeback. And you guys are fighting that timeless fight against cybercrime. And you are Captain America, and your superheroes are right here in this room, and probably right in that next room with those vendors. And so this is your call to action. Again, use this wonderful day. Use this opportunity, because the super friends that you make, the superhero friends that you make, will advance your career, your profession, and just make life a lot more fun for you along the way. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. It has, again, been my most sincere honor. I hope that some of you will be able to come back at 4. I mean, super cool audience. David Mata, Mr. AI over at Darktrace, Mr. Mark Crudgenton, founder and CEO of Cyberforce. We've got James Morrison, former FBI and now Intellisys. It's going to be a super fun panel. I hope you'll come back for that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you. Let's stay in touch, and I'm opening the floor up for questions.
Laura, I do have a question from the virtual side.
Yes, sir.
This is from Philip C. My experience is that the board pays attention after an incident. How do we get the board to pay attention before an incident and fund the right project?
Well, I haven't swept the entire room yet, but I would just tell you the notion of a scoreboard, a neutral scoreboard, where you're fairly compared against your peers. And I know that many of you in this room, because I can tell you that in the ACC, there are people that believe in scorecards, and there are people that believe these are the worst things ever, and why should I be scored? But I can tell you that from a board standpoint, a neutral means of showing where you're at and showing where you're at against your peers is near priceless. If you think about it, in a refinery environment, they're always looking at where you're at as far as your percentile on safety as compared to your peers. And I believe that cybersecurity is simply part of your safety program. And if you're going to measure safety, then measure cyber. And if you're going to measure cyber and you're going to measure it, you measure it against your peers so that they can understand, are you over invested? Because they may say, well, you're good. You're good. Why do we need to buy one more, shiny object? And you go, well, let's talk about that. Well, let's talk about that, because actually we're not quite good. We're a lot better than we were, and we have a lot of pride in where we've come, but we've got these deficiencies, and this is clear. And so I believe whatever scorecard, whatever third-party assessment that you can use, and you share those facts with the board, I just really don't believe that they're going to allow you to be underperforming.
Do we have any other questions? Hold on, I'm going to have you say it in the mic so our virtual people can hear.
I really appreciate what Laura just said. I actually work as a safety engineer in a small aerospace company. And I'm going to follow up what you just said with an example. The other day I received an email from someone in the company who said they had just posted a new link on our Paranet. I looked at that and I thought, did that really come from her? So I sent her an email and I said, did you send this? And she said, yes, I did send that. Okay, so we verified that it was her, but I was the only one that didn't click on that email. And there's 250 people in the company. That's a safety issue. Mm-hmm. At the next Monday meeting, the IT CISO made a point of that and said, of the 250 employees we have in the company, we had one person who didn't click on that link and asked about it. We have a problem. And this is exactly what Laura is alluding to. Mm-hmm. It is a safety issue. And that is a scorecard right there.
It's a scorecard.
And she took that to the board. So, yeah, companies need to do that.
I mean, a story on my former CEO. We were in a meeting at one of our manufacturing plants, and I should tell you that we had a no USB or a check your USB policy. So you might have heard check your gun at the door, but we had a check your USB at the door. And so anyway, we were in this program, and the CEO said, he might have used a few expletives that I'll kind of sweeten up. But dadgummit, I don't have the right version of my presentation. Who has a USB that you can throw me to get this thing up on the screen? All these USBs started coming out of people's pockets. And he said, gotcha. Gotcha, he said. I'm just trying to make this cyber awareness program real. You guys have got to get rid of these USBs. And it took, when he said it, and I know he kind of made a little bit of a funny out of it, but the fact that he took it and he really embodied it, I can tell you that after that people were like, get rid of the, before it might have been the cyber team was kind of chasing you, but now it was it was real. But those are learning moments. That's what I wanted to say. Those are learning moments that you really need to capitalize on.
Do we have any other questions in the room? Comments, questions? Okay. I think that's it. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.